In The Sopranos, we follow Cypher, a red pill resistance operative who betrays his command and aids the nefarious Agent Smith in exchange for forgetting the reality of the world and returning to the Matrix. "I don't want to remember nothing," he tells Smith, "and I want to be rich, someone important, like an actor." Cypher comes back as New Jersey soldier Ralph Cifaretto, unfortunately born handsome instead of rich. Fucking Smith, he's dyslexic. But circumstances allow Ralph to rise to the rank of capo and run the Jersey family's most lucrative crew. Ralph is sleazy, cunning, and very intelligent. In fact, behind Tony, he might just be the smartest gangster in the glorified crew. So important to business that even Lupertazzi boss Carmine Sr. blocks an attempt by his underboss, Johnny Sack, to whack Ralph, preferring Johnny to disappear. Smart as a whip, this guy, and let's not forget his epic blasting of Janice in the face with toenail shrapnel. He should have been made again right there and then, boom! However, Ralph is also deeply unstable, in part due to a coke habit, and he has an obnoxious personality which gets on the nerves of others. I mean, Tony especially. Ralph is a bad influence on the impressionable Jackie Jr. He makes a fat joke that almost ignites a mob war. He may have killed Tony's beloved horse, and of course there's the stripper incident, whatever happened there. Sopranos fans, of course, are in agreement that the most heinous act on the show is Vito's shocking betrayal of Paulie, but a close follow-up is Ralph's brazen disrespect of the Bing. Ralph is eventually killed by Tony in a brutal fight. Interestingly, he dies the death of a gladiator, which I'm sure would have pleased him given his obsession with the movie. Today I wanted to take a look at Ralph's unseemly personality and hints of something sprinkled in the show which may clue us into why he is the way he is. And that is the suggestion that Ralph was abused by his mother during his youth, that she inflicted severe sexual and physical abuse which intertwined physical pain and humiliation with love and affection. I mean, Ralph was a sadist who seemed to enjoy the idea of torturing someone. During the Mustang Sully fiasco, he asks to do the deed, saying he'll take him apart at the joints. He's in a relationship with Traceee and bizarrely is ecstatic watching her get hit by Silvio. He blinds Georgie with the chain and finds it hilarious. And he murders a 20-year-old woman he was involved with and who may have been carrying his child. And this is after he gets slapped after telling her a cruel lie. He revels in the misery of others whilst having a joyous attitude to life himself. Is psychologically abusive and manipulative, and when you combine that with his sexual proclivities, like wanting a cheese grater used on his brajol, I think we can agree there is something very wrong with this guy. Now you might say, hey Cine, the guy was a sick fuck no doubt, but not every villain has to have a sad backstory. Well, whatever you say, Cappy, but I'm sure by the end of this video I'll have you convinced of Ralph's unfortunate backstory. That will be made abundantly clear to you, but before we get there, be sure to subscribe to the channel. What we do on YouTube echoes in the algorithm, so be sure to give the video a like too. You can also support the channel and get immediate access to more than 25 early access videos by joining my Patreon or becoming a channel member. There's two episodes in particular that shine a spotlight on Ralph's elusive upbringing. University, where he beats Traceee, and Mergers and Acquisitions, where Tony carries out a Scooby-Doo-like investigation of Ralph's sex life to make sleeping with Valentina easier for him. The very first time we see Ralph, he is drop-shipped into the show after Livia's death. He's the only one who seems genuinely distraught when consoling Tony, saying,
"We lost Mom last year. You remember?"
Through pieces of dialogue, we learn that Ralph's dad died when he was 6 years old, and twice it's brought up, once by Rosalie and another time by Ralph himself, that this hairpiece motherfucker had to drop out of school in 11th grade to earn for his family. What that specifically entails is never made clear. Perhaps it was legitimate part-time work. It could have been that he entered a life of crime at this age. There's even a suggestion that he may have been making money through satanic black magic. Sick shit. What with Janice getting freaky with him in bed and saying things like,
"Mama's a little tramp. Mama's a little hoo-ah.
I'm gonna put you back on the street, ho. Make you work that ass. I'm gonna pimp you out, bitch." You know what? This is too fucked up for me to even think about. And it seems to still resonate feelings in Ralph. Look at the way he fiddles with his ear and seems sincerely upset telling this story.
Every advantage of this kid. College, good home life. I had to quit school in 11th grade. Help my mother. Supposed to be an architect.
He's frustrated with Jackie Jr.'s lack of appreciation, and him pointing out that Jackie had a good home life implies that he had a bad one. Perhaps after the death of his father, his mother put all sorts of pressure on him to bypass his childhood, to man up and take responsibilities that he was far too young to take on. Similar to Tony fainting as a child in a flashback when faced with the prospect of bringing home the bacon, Ralph has repressed feelings as a result of the sudden burden that was placed upon him, his childhood stripped away, much like what happens to his own boy, in a very different way of course. His mother may have put him in the role of a dead husband, a form of parentification where her emotional needs, sexual needs even, were taken care of by Ralph. She had her demanding ways, as Ralph says. His beating of Traceee is very telling. She swears at him in front of all the guys in the Bing and he plays it off as nothing. But she then says, yeah, some man, and it's then that he goes after her. When outside, while Traceee is hitting him, he gives as good as he gets. But then she lands a heavy one and it does something to Ralph. There's a change in his demeanour, a demented rigidity. She then says, make you feel good, make you feel like a man, and then he beats her to death. Twice in the space of 5 minutes, emasculation has made him act out. I talked about this more in my episode discussion of 46 Long. I can't have this conversation again. But long story short, it's implied that when Tony beat Georgie for the first time, he's actually taking out his anger on his mother on the poor soul. In other words, fantasizing about bashing that poor girl's brain in. Like for example, Georgie can't work the telephone, and Tony complains to Dr. Milfy that Livia can't work the telephone, making a connection between the two characters. What, you telling me you never pondered that? Could it be then that Tracee's emasculation of him awoken something from his youth, which caused him to unleash his repressed anger on his mum for emasculating him as a boy? Psychiatry and cheese graters brought us to this. Even hooking up with Traceee in the first place is telling. She was abusive to her kid, burning him with cigarettes, and she herself was abused, her mum putting her hand on the stove. Her abusive parenting may have been a sick turn-on for Ralph, reminding him of his mum, but the idea of her bettering herself, which she does, seeing someone about the abuse and stopping what she does to her kid, doesn't sit right with Ralph. Removing the shackles of abuse meant Ralph was no longer interested in her, and it begins the friction between the two. He seems to have a lot of similarities with Tony then, also a guy who dislikes others improving themselves, and also a guy with mummy issues who had to work after his dad died young. What is this, the handsome contest? You get this sense, rewatching the show, that if Tony is knee-deep in mummy issues, then Ralph is drowning in it. Livia made all kinds of threats but never followed through with it. Raphael's mum may have gone that far. There's an odd duality with Ralph's sickening treatment of women, the sacred and the profane. He likes to be abused by them, but at the same time he himself inflicts abuse, like the threesome with Traceee. There's a shot of him pulling out a chair for Carm's mum obediently without being asked. He seems to have a Madonna-whore complex going on where he gets love and abuse mixed up, most likely because he himself was a recipient of love from his mum, but also abuse. He equates his mum's abuse with love, which explains why he gives Traceee love and kind words, but also horrific abuse. Not to mention, he grew up in a culture where mothers are sacred and revered. To have this object of admiration, this person that he'd be desperate to win the approval over, the only woman he would have known for a long time, who should have been a source of warmth and comfort, to abuse him, to give him pain and cruelty, would mean he'd grow up repressed and conflicted, and it explains his treatment of women, how he sees them as nothing because he doesn't quite know what a normative relationship with a woman looks like. As he says, maybe if I found a girl like Carmela, things could have turned out different, which also implies that Carm is a positive force in Tony's life, stopping him from total depravity and the Oedipus complex that Ralph is embroiled in. I imagine Rosalie was a positive force in Ralph's life, a step in the right direction. She does say she took care of all his sexual needs, but there was an aura of normality in their relationship that wasn't present in Ralph's time with Traceee and Janutsky. He didn't want to kill Jackie Jr. and in his selfishness left Ro during their grieving. But in his final episode, where he appears to be on the path to redemption, he proposes to Ro, as if, again, she represents a step in the right direction for him. Perhaps the first time he hooked up with Ro and Janice, it was for access to higher power, but in whoever did this, it was sincere. In any case, I don't want to talk too much about Ralph's supposed redemption arc in this video. You can check out a video of mine called Why You're Wrong About Ralph for that. Janice tells Tony that Ralph bottoms from the top, as if he gets off on the fantasy of being abused, but at the same time he needs to be in control. As Janet says, it means he has to control things, but he pretends he doesn't, and she says he can't get hard the normal way. Valentina also tells Tony that he gets off on all kinds of punishment, like having hot and sticky candle wax on his balls. When Tony and Ralph talk, Ralph gives Adriana some shit and then offers her money, saying, "My dear departed mother used to say, you catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar." So he's given her grief and followed it up with reward. Perhaps he was given abuse and then rewarded by his mother, which is why he associates the two. Aid follows it up by saying you can tell a lot about a man from the way he treats women, which on a meta level, we can deduce that the show is telling us if we want to know more about Ralph, look at his interactions with women in the show. In the same scene, he says regarding Aid, "She likes it, it's banter," and Tony retorts, "I don't think she likes it. I don't think she likes you either." Perhaps Ralph's comment here summarizes his entire attitude to women, to Traceee in particular. He abuses her because he thinks deep down she enjoys it, and that's because on a deeper level he enjoys it when he's abused, or more to the point, he learned to enjoy it as a coping mechanism from whatever he went through as a kid. The most telling thing about Ralph's relationship with his mother is from the end of this scene, where Tony brings up that Ralph and his mother didn't get along. Ralph vaguely reveals she was demanding, and when Tony starts a question about her, Ralph cuts him off and quickly makes an excuse to leave.
You ever think about your mother?
She's dead.
You two didn't get along very well, right?
She had a demanding ways.
When you were a kid, did she ever,
No, I gotta go.
You know, I rewatched episodes for this video looking for clues of Ralph's past, and I turned up my hearing aid so I don't miss it. And I was pretty surprised how bluntly it's actually spelled out for us by Melfi.
He sounds like a textbook masochist.
Like S&M?
The M part, yes.
I thought all that stuff was just like a run-up to the act.
That's the case for many people, but not for people with paraphilias. For them, receiving pain, being humiliated, becomes in and of itself the sexual release. Like many other things, we believe it's rooted in childhood.
I received regular beatings when I was a kid, but I'm not going around looking for some woman to hook up jumper cables to my private parts.
It's not a simple one-to-one. More than likely, he had a controlling and punishing mother. She loved him, but showed it only in connection with some sort of violent or abusive act.
There's an interview Joey Pants did on the Tommy Edison Experience where he delved into his backstory for Ralph, alluding to a deleted scene where he says his parents were animals.
That he's been a victim of really bad shit because, he tells the priest, my parents were animals and you can't believe the shit they did to me, because he was a victim of sexual abuse and mental abuse. And nobody is born bad. This guy was created to be who he was.
In another interview, he explained, "In my design of putting Ralph together, I always decided that he was sexually abused by his alcoholic mother's boyfriends, that he was addicted to watching The Godfather, and that he really wanted to be Michael Corleone." That last point is something he had in common with Jackie Jr., I guess. Perhaps then, a lot of his demeaning and undermining attitude towards others, things like kissing Gigi on the lips and whatnot, speaks to an insecurity, an overcompensation due to his need to be dominant. His selfishness also, and his annoyance with Jackie Jr. could stem from this feeling that no one had it as bad as I had it. I had to put my family first, and the abuse that I endured. The priest even brings up Jesus as an example of somebody who experienced pain, and Ralph says, "Nothing like this." The fact that he wears a hairpiece suggests he's got an image that he wants people to have of him. He doesn't want them to know what's underneath. I imagine there's a lot of scraps in his scrapbook. Could we make something of his obsession with Gladiator? There's probably not much in it, but there is the Roman concept of sex, where there's less emphasis on gender and more on the idea of dominant and weaker roles, which of course speaks to Ralph's sensibilities. And the Romans, where are they now? It's funny, Jackie Jr. has a throwaway line where he says about Ralph, "I think he's a secret fag." It might just have been the most insightful thing Brainless II ever said on the show, as he was probably onto something that Ralph did indeed have covert inclinations. When the two are having dinner and Ralph acknowledges that it's weird he's dating Junior's mom, the heir apparent says, "Dating?" And Ralph replies, "Don't get filthy about it." Which I just assumed was Jackie Jr. being immature and pedantic about it being two people screwing, not in love. But maybe it turns out he heard weird shit happening from their bedroom. So what do you make of Ralph's mysterious backstory? Let me know in the comments section below. Subscribe to the channel and thanks for watching.